Welcome to Willpower Not Required, the podcast that gives you quick, easy, and effective tips that you can use today to improve your health and help you live your life to the fittest. No willpower or white knuckling required. I'm your host, Lauren Whitfield. Let's get started. Today's tip is to make one meal carb-free. Let me start off by saying that I'm not a fan of diets that eliminate food groups. Fat-free, keto, or low-carb, carb-free, those diets can be effective in the short term, but are very hard to maintain in the long term, and they often lead to rebound weight gain. And isn't the point of losing weight to never find it again? I do, however, think that in many countries, mine included, our diets are a little heavier in carbohydrates than they need to be, which can be a contributing factor in weight gain and many adverse health conditions. This is why today's tip is focused around reducing the amount of carbohydrates in our daily intake and by focusing on one meal. So let's start first with some science around carbohydrates. If you're not interested in the nitty-gritty details, feel free to skip ahead in the podcast by a few minutes. But it's important to know what carbohydrates are and why they're important. Carbs are a macronutrient made of one or more sugar molecules. They're found in bread, grain products, legumes, vegetables, fruit, dairy products, and sugar. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose, which is the preferred source of energy for the brain and nervous system, for the red blood cells, and, if you're pregnant, the placenta and fetus. There are two types of carbohydrates: simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbs are small packages of glucose that the body can break down easily and quickly. They're naturally found in fruit as fructose, in milk as lactose, and other unprocessed foods. They can also be refined into table sugar and syrups. Because they're broken down easily by the body, they provide a quick burst of energy, and it's short. Complex carbs, on the other hand, are long chains of hundreds to thousands of glucose molecules. The way the glucose molecules link together separates them into two further categories: starch or digestible, and fiber or non-digestible. They take longer to process than simple carbs, and therefore they provide a more sustained source of energy. Complex carbs are found in grains, products made from whole grains such as breads, cereals, pasta, legumes like beans, peas, and lentils, and in vegetables. So what happens when you eat carbohydrates? Well, when carbohydrates are ingested, they're broken down into glucose, which goes into the bloodstream, where it's ready to be used for energy or stored for use later on. When glucose in the blood rises, the pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. It does two things. First, it stimulates the brain, muscle, and fat to use that glucose for fuel. Second, if you have more available glucose than your body needs for energy, it stimulates the liver to make glycogen, the storage form of glucose. 1 to 3 hours after you eat, your blood sugar and insulin levels return to baseline. Chronic overeating combined with inactivity or eating more carbohydrates than you're using for fuel can cause some people to become insulin resistant. This means that their tissues ignore insulin signals and blood glucose levels remain too high. Your body tries to compensate for this by producing more insulin, which promotes fat storage and inhibits fat burning. A side note also about fiber. As I mentioned a little earlier, fiber is an indigestible complex carbohydrate. It doesn't provide energy in the form of calories. It is what's left of a food after digestion. Low fiber diets can often cause constipation and gastrointestinal disorders. Foods that are high in fiber are essential for colon health and elimination, and they can lower cholesterol because they hinder fat absorption. So we obviously want to have carbs in the form of fiber as part of our regular diet. All right, are you still with me? As you can see, carbs do have a place in our diet and they provide an important function, but it's all about moderation. In a healthy, balanced diet, carbs should make up around 40-45% of our daily intake. For many people, their current intake looks more like 50 to 60%, which brings us back to today's tip. One easy way of reducing the amount of carbs in your diet while still getting their health benefits is to focus on one meal. Take one meal in your day and replace starchy carbs like cereal, breads, pasta, rice, or crackers with a little extra protein or complex non-starchy carbs like veggies or a salad. So what would this look like in reality? Well, instead of cereal at breakfast, you could try an omelet with veggies and maybe a little lean meat. If you want to prep ahead and try a more grab-and-go option, you could try egg muffins. You'll find a link to a recipe for that in the show notes. A protein shake is also a quick option for breakfast. My basic shake includes a cup of liquid, like milk, almond milk, soy milk, coconut milk, or water, 1 cup of frozen berries, 1 scoop of protein powder, and 2 large handfuls of spinach. Blend it together and enjoy. At lunch, you could switch out your sandwich for a salad topped with protein like chicken, fish, a hard-boiled egg, or meatless options like hemp seeds, roasted chickpeas, or nuts. You could also just switch out the bread in your sandwich for a lettuce wrap using the same fillings. Dinner could be a protein like chicken, steak, or a meatless protein with lots of veggies, or just switch out your rice in your meal for cauliflower rice. A side note about cauliflower rice, if you find it kind of a bit of a pain to make, you can buy it already prepped in the frozen section of most grocery stores. There's a little side tip for you. There are lots of options. The idea is that by focusing on reducing your carb intake in one meal, you thereby lower the carb intake in your day while bumping up the protein. It will also likely result in reducing your overall calorie intake and may help you shed a little extra weight. Willpower not required. Thanks so much for listening. I'd love to hear from you, so send me your tips, questions, or feedback. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Fired Up Fitness Coaching, or email me at willpowernotrequired@firedupfitness.ca. Thanks so much. I look forward to connecting with you.